It is like lifting the anchor of a speedboat. All of a sudden it will go from just running in circles around the anchor that's in the water, or at best slightly lifting the anchor up, but because of how it's pulling the boat down, the boat cannot generate proper speed, and it will go from that to crossing the ocean straight towards your goal. And that's where the beauty is at. Welcome to episode 5 of the RawTalk series, another episode in this beautiful spot. And today I wanted to address what I need in life versus what I get in life. And I'll tie that in a moment, so it sounds a bit abstract, but I'm working on the key module of my coaching right now, where I wanted to create something that's very unique that I can give to my clients, where they can really understand what it takes to create the life that you want, how to create a vision and then implement it. And part of that module is something that's very basic to me and very basic in terms of content, something you've all heard me talk about before, and that's what we need in order to succeed long term, in order to be consistent, is systems, habits, routines, and standards that we hold ourselves to. Now, if we have these in place, life becomes so easy because everything just happens in itself. We start stacking wins, our life gets better and better and better. We feel more free, even when in a way our life works more according to plan. We have these routines, we have these habits, we have these systems that we apply, that we implement. But because of these systems, habits, routines, and standards, our life is more stable. It works. The important things get done. It's easier for us to actually get to getting them done. So I know that for me, what I need is having these elements in place. And whenever I don't have them in place, everything starts falling apart. And that's happened multiple times in my life. And back in the day, I was not as aware of it as I am right now. And I'll share 2 examples that I think are quite relatable here. The first one is from when I started working in corporate law, my first real job, where I worked 80 hours a week, oftentimes, sometimes even more. Sometimes I worked 90 or 100 hours, like really crazy times. So what would happen is I made a plan for my week, and I knew that essentially I would be working all the time. But I also knew that typically in the evening I would have a window where everybody else would order food, where I could sneak out of the office and go train and be back by the time food is there, and I could eat at my desk and I would still get everything done because other people were eating in the kitchen together. So that was my idea. And I had this plan on how to execute on the things that mattered to me. But some days my boss would call me and ask that I do something else, and something had to be prioritized and it needed to be done, and I had to throw my plans away. Likewise, sometimes my boss would call me and ask me to work late and finish something that night, or to do something over the weekend. And essentially what happened is somebody else would prioritize what should matter most to me. And that was not necessarily, and actually most of the time, not aligned with what was most important to me in the long term. So the thing I needed to do on a day-to-day basis in order to achieve my long-term goals was not aligned with the things that I had to do short-term. So the immediate important thing that I needed to address. And to give you maybe a different example, if you cannot relate to that, if you make a plan for yourself, let's say you're an entrepreneur, you schedule your day, you schedule your week, you plan, but then boom, someone in your family calls or a friend, and something comes up that you need to take care of, something you need to handle, that you need to address, that requires your immediate attention. It might not be important to the long-term plans or goals that you have, but it is important right now in the short term. It needs your attention because that family member needs your help, or because that friend needs your help. So what are you going to do? You are going to take care of this. And again, somebody else is prioritizing what needs to have first priority for you. And I realized that if I want to avoid being in those situations where somebody else prioritizes what matters most to me, I need to make sure that I get done what matters most in the morning. If you don't get up and get your main needle movers done before the entire world comes online and bothers you with potential things that need to be taken care of, things that require your attention, if you don't get it done before that, then you have no guarantee of getting it done. Sure, I use buffers in my scheduling. I even plan buffer days where I know, okay, worst case, I can still do it then and there. But sometimes it's not possible because it comes at the end and you can simply never predict what will happen in between now and then. What will come up that requires your attention? What will come up that requires your time, that will prevent you from doing what matters most, from working on your main needle movers? You cannot plan for it. So what I tell myself is that the only way to have this 100% certainty to actually get the main needle movers done is wake up and get to work. Set the alarm, wake up when the alarm rings, get to work before everybody gets up, and that's the way you can get it done. You have certainty that you're done by the time any potential issues come up. And yes, that might mean on some days you won't have your 8 hours of sleep, but it also means that if nothing unexpected comes up, you're finished early and you can go sleep early, or you can go do something that you might enjoy more than doing your work or working towards your goal, if there is such a thing. Now, in an ideal world, you control your own priorities. Nobody else can interfere in your priorities, or you anticipate it by scheduling time apart where simply nothing can interfere most of the time. That way your habits, your systems, your routines and your standards just work. Nothing else will interfere with them. However, there is one big thing that can act either as a catalyst or as an anchor. Let me explain what I mean by that. You don't live separate from the world. This week I was in a situation where I was hanging out with friends, and half of us were working and the other half of us were just basically having fun, having a vacation. And for me, being working most of the time, I was struggling a little bit with my environment, aka my friends and partially my family, interfering with what I had set out to do, interfering with me wanting to work, with me following my routine, with me following my training plan, because they wanted to do fun activities, they wanted to spend time, and all of that is fair. So what did I do? First thing was I started standing up, waking up early in the morning to make sure that at least my main needle movers are done before anybody else is even awake and could want anything from me. Sure, that's the basis. But what I realize is that your environment, aka your friends, your family, the way you structure your life can act in two ways. It can either act as a catalyst for your success, for achieving your goals, if you set it up in a way where everything around you will help you, will fuel you. For example, you only hang out with friends that are also working. You only hang out ideally even with friends that are working on the same things. You focus the time that you spend with other people that only want to have fun, with family, to certain blocks of time throughout your day or throughout your week where it doesn't interfere with your own prioritization, with your own scheduling. And when you do that, you essentially make sure that everything in your life works as a vortex, pulling you, or at least helping you move towards your goals. Now, on the flip side, you have a situation where everything around you is dragging you down like an anchor. It doesn't mean you cannot move forward, but you're making it exponentially more difficult on yourself to reach what you want to reach, because the anchor is just such a drag behind you that, yes, with a sufficiently strong engine, aka systems, routines, habits, and standards, you can move, but you will move exponentially more slow. So by reducing the anchor or lifting it up or getting it under control, you can turn the situation around into a situation that moves you forward. Scheduling all of these encumbrances, the things that might interfere with you maintaining what you need to do, scheduling time apart for these things. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that your environment will constantly make you hold back from what needs to be done. You will constantly be tempted with doing things that are more fun, with not doing your work. Things will interfere with you, things that appear important, things that require your attention, that you need to do, that will not move forward. So withdrawing yourself from that environment, putting yourself purposefully in an environment that helps you move forward, is almost like magic. It is you creating an environment that can move you forward. It is like lifting the anchor of a speedboat. All of a sudden it will go from just running in circles around the anchor that's in the water, or at best slightly lifting the anchor up, but because of how it's pulling the boat down, the boat cannot generate proper speed, and it will go from that to crossing the ocean straight towards your goal. And that's where the beauty is at. That said, I do believe that spending time with friends and family, even if they're not aligned with your goals, not aligned with you improving as a person, or you even turning your vision into reality, it's still important, because these relationships matter. Having relationships with close friends that you've known for a long time, having good relationships with your family, with your wife, with your children, whatever it is, these relationships matter so much in the long term, and therefore it's so important to schedule time apart. And what happens when we don't schedule time apart, what happens to me every time when I don't purposefully think this through, is that I will end up in a situation where I don't really get the things done that I need to do. And at the same time, I'm angry at myself, annoyed by the people around me, annoyed at myself, annoyed at everybody who wants something from me. And I will still do it, but I'm doing it half-heartedly. I'm not in it the way I should be. What I want ideally, and that's the big thing, is I want myself to realize that you gotta do things in a focused way. You gotta be in it with your whole heart. Be in the work with your heart. Focus on it. Be focused, be present, and then be in the relationship. Be in the family situation. Be with your friends wholeheartedly, enjoying being there rather than being torn between the two things, thinking about the one thing while you're working. While you're working, you're thinking about your friends and family and how you were annoyed at them or how you should have spent more time with them. And while you're with your friends and family, you're thinking about your work that you're not getting done. Nobody's benefiting from that. Nobody is benefiting from that. Let me repeat. You will do both things half-heartedly. And it's happened to me so many times in my life where I just wasn't sufficiently present. And how am I going to be focused? How are you going to be focused when you're not present, when you're not there and actually taking the time to empty the mind and just be here with the task at hand, whatever that task is, a family, friends, work. But if you're not focused, how are you going to do it? How are you going to go to the gym and give it your all when you're in the gym and you're training, and your training is half-hearted because you're constantly thinking about work? You're thinking about your boss who didn't want to let you go. You're thinking about your family that you ditched angrily so you could go to the gym, about your wife that's alone with the kids. How is that going to be beneficial? How is that going to help you generate the energy, generate the power, and give it your all? So rather than doing that, putting ourselves in a situation where we take control and proactively create space for each of these aspects, and also in some cases purposefully decide to eliminate one of these spaces from our life. Because for myself, doing 4 things in a great way rather than doing 5 things half-assed, I truly believe that this is where happiness and fulfillment comes from. There might be a time and place where it is the right thing to tell your family that you're going to be gone for the next 3 months and you will simply not be here because you're focused on a work project. And I know that a lot of people will probably think this is crazy, but look at professional athletes. If you really want to perform at your peak, it might require you to withdraw from one aspect that requires too much time and energy for a while, for the benefit of everyone, because then you can perform at your best in that one sector and then come back and be fully present in the other part. And it always comes back to me thinking about these situations with children that said that their fathers were never really present. Would you rather be the dad who was only there half, who didn't really care what his kids did, he was just constantly annoyed? Or would you rather be the dad who was gone for specific periods of time, but when he was there, he was really there? And if you have kids or not, just think about it. Who would you rather be? What do you think is better for the kids? That said, nice thought experiment also for myself. I'll be recording probably one more video in this beautiful spot, and then I'm headed back to Sofia, where I currently live. What we do for the taxes, huh? And I'll be seeing you in one of my next videos.